So since the last video I posted was the beginner's guide to Nix-Ox combo, I felt like the next gameplay video I did should probably be Nix-Ox combo. I know some people are probably tired of seeing it, so if you're one of those, I apologize, but there was a lot of interest and I got a lot of good feedback about doing the beginner's guide thing. So for today, we're going to do what I normally do with the gameplay videos. We're going to play 2 games on the ladder, win or lose. This is, again, just kind of hopefully showcasing how the deck can perform and maybe even showcase how it can go wrong or what gives it trouble. I hope not the latter. I would prefer to win. I'm currently bouncing around like the middle of top 100. So, you know, winning would be nice. It looks like we're paired up against Tribunal. And we're going first. Alright, so mulliganing is kind of interesting with this deck. Obviously, against an aggressive deck, Blackhand Messenger, Sanctuary Pet, both fantastic cards to keep. But against Tribunal, that's most often another control deck. Against control decks, these two aren't the greatest keeps early. What you want is ramp, cards that draw, and then some combo pieces. In this instance, these go back for sure. There's an argument to be made about Path Mage, whether or not you would keep it or not, but since we're not using Path Mage till much later, I think you send it, and we again hope for cards that let us dig and ramp. Alright, so the good news is we found some stuff that lets us dig, we found some value. The bad news is we drew Laneth, so when you draw Laneth, it can give this deck some fits, because it means you, without a lot going your way, likely cannot pull off the 1-turn kill. So instead we're going to be playing this like a extended value deck. We might still do the combo, but it's going to be like try to fill both lanes with giant things and hope my opponent can't deal with it sort of combo.
My scales move in shadow.
A couple of different ways that we could deal with this. There's no good way right now to prevent them from getting the tome. Now, what we're going to do is Harpy this, and then if we need to, next turn we can either double crash in and do it, or we can Firebolt crash this in. But the reason you Harpy is because if we top deck a negation next turn, that's just better. Denies the tome.
I will keep Sotha Sill's people alive.
Oh, that's not good. So we are floating, I know I talked about it a little bit earlier, at number 67 at the moment. And I think we're just going to use the Firebolt here, since there's no way to dodge the tome. We'll go ahead and do that to maybe get rid of Galen as well. Okay, so Siege Catapult was not a card I was expecting, and it tells me this actually might not be Control Tribunal. So we're going to go ahead and get rid of Galen now. Siege Catapult, I'm not going to lie, throwing me for a little bit of a loop here.
We'll never give ground.
This might be more like a mid-range Tribunal. So we do have a Nix-Ox, we do have a Laneth. We do have a Necromancer, but right now the things that it finds aren't super great. I mean, Fighter's Guild Recruit's not half bad, I suppose. Means you would have to use another removal spell to keep it alive, and I'm not against that. I mean, they've only used one Firebolt. Again, being Tribunal, they probably have something going on. Yeah, let's go ahead and let's play a little bit defensive here.
If I fall,
I was mentally considering maybe I just let him hit me a few times. I wouldn't mind drawing some extra cards, but chances are they have 2 creatures here. and that catapult is coming as well. So cards that stop this are obviously removal, Firebolts, Piercing Javelins, Execute, Grizzly Gourmet, you name it. Cloudrust Illusionist is also a problem. Like, that actually might be the worst case scenario if they have, like, Cloudrust into Daggerfall Mage, for example. That would allow them to fill this lane so that this can attack, deny any value here. I mention all that because I wanted to point out that this isn't cut and dry. What I did is actually a pretty risky play. But I also felt like doing nothing was pretty risky. Mid-range Tribunal, huh?
Behold the light of the Tribunal.
So that's an Oathman. So maybe it's not mid-range?
They'll never get the best of us.
Maybe they just run Catapult for board control, trying to keep things under wraps. It's tempting to like rush this out, but with no other ways to trigger it or copy it right now, I think we have to save it. Because ideally, we want to get some value. When we get to where we can play Laneth, we do probably play that and just hope they don't have cast into time. If they have a Javelin or an Edict or something, that's okay because we can always Soul Terror back, so we're really only punished by cast in that scenario. I do think we make this trade. We don't want this to activate.
Behold my power.
So I think that's fine.
Heals and
We
rejuvenates.
definitely play that because that will likely demand a response. Haven't found a lot of card draw tools or filter. So we're actually having to make some decisions with not a lot of resources to work with. In fact, we should probably start thinking about exactly what we want to get with our Laneth. I feel like it's got to be Experiments, because if the Laneth survives, Experiments is potentially just a win when that time comes. Well, that makes us sad because of the Divine Fervor, we can't even get the one Magicka ramp with our Blackhand Messenger play here. It's very depressing. Alright. So we're stuck having to play Laneth, it looks like. Next turn. Depending on what they develop here. Well, that's interesting too. I was gonna say, depending on what they develop here, there's actually a case that could be made for not playing Laneth. If we wait one turn, well, actually, if we wait 2 turns, we could play Laneth and A Night to Remember. That would allow us to fetch both Experiments and an Uprising, and then we could essentially, we could actually pull the combo off if they don't have removal for Laneth at that point. That prospect alone actually has, I think, convinced me to not play Laneth yet. Instead, I think that the play in this scenario is a Viper. Next turn, we still are not playing Laneth. We're going to wait till 11. So I think we pass. That still leaves us open to Soul Tear a Necromancer into a Viper again if we want. This is a very interesting deck that we're playing against. I will say that. Alright. That's a great pickup, so... Yeah, I think in the interest... God, I'm slurring my words, I swear I haven't been drinking. In the interest of survival, to buy us as much time as possible there, I think we go with that. Because then next turn we find Laneth, and then the following turn we combo. So
and I can always find it.
We just have to make sure that we don't die. If this takes us to 24, they would have 10, 24 on board, plus whatever they're going to play from hand. Interesting. Legitimately might not be able to do Laneth combo. I actually think that we have to spend some time not dying.
The Night Mother will guide us.
That's really rough. Trying to decide if I want to take 7 damage to camel this turn, or if I want to not die so much more that I use a Night to Remember on this to get rid of that. There's a strong chance we don't get to use Laneth to combo now. Because I think, if I had to guess, Laneth probably for them went to find Supreme Atromancer. That feels like the kind of top-end card that that deck would want. That or like Uncano.
The Night Mother will guide
It's a pretty feels bad moment, but I feel like I don't want to take that much damage from an Atromancer. Atromancer in the field lane would allow everything to attack because it would activate this. And it would put us low enough that we still wouldn't be able to play Laneth and a Night to Remember the following turn anyway. It's really important to save your pieces to try to pull a combo off, but getting your combo off doesn't matter if you're dead. And that means every now and then, tough decisions need to be made. That's interesting.
They've no move we can't anticipate.
I feel like this is going to end up being more important.
There's always a way, and I can always find it.
And I know I said experiments earlier because you could experiments on Laneth and then kind of do whatever you wanted, but I actually feel like Uprising, given our hand, is slightly better. Because we can go Ox, Doppelganger, Uprising next turn to go get experiments and then just combo. Uprising's also a good defensive tool where if they have removal for Laneth here, we could still use it to potentially pull damage off the board. Based on them not doing anything last turn, I have to assume they've got some sort of answer for Laneth here. They've got maybe a reactive hand.
And I shall cure it.
But we can hope that there's no answer for Laneth. And if there's no answer, then we have to start taking our actions very quickly as soon as our turn starts, because we will have enough to do the combo. But we want to make sure we pull it off. And we're going to have to resolve Black Hand Messengers. Alright, here we go. So, Ox. Let's go ahead and just get rid of that to copy the Ox, because that'll give us enough magicka after this. Sure, I'll grab you. Sure, find experiments as soon as my computer stops locking up on me. Sure.
So
Sure.
predictable.
Experiments there.
There's always a way, and I can always find
Find
it.
another uprising. Let's get rid of you. Copy you. And then we'll uprising again. And this time we want our last uprising, and why not another Nix-Ox? And then we'll do our last uprising to go get the Viper and the Mentor's Ring. Viper down, Mentor's Ring.
This should be fascinating. This should be fascinating.
And that should be it. So, there's a way if you have Laneth stuck in your hand, you can try to pull it off. Just kind of, unfortunately, depended on her surviving for a turn, but we did it. This deck can do a lot of flashy things with the right draw, but not every draw goes according to plan. So sometimes you gotta adjust, right? Use some combo pieces that maybe you were saving just to make sure that you don't die. I'd be really interested to know what they went and fetched with their Laneth. I thought for sure it was going to be a Supreme Atromancer, but then they didn't play anything the following turn, so I'm confused. Because they already had Divine Fervor on the board, so an Atromancer would have been able to survive Ice Storm. That's the reason we didn't save the Ice Storm, and instead I took the negation. Because once you can't Ice Storm those things away, kind of doesn't matter. Alright, so we're going second against Redoran, but the Chuckle on my end, and this looks fine. We have some defense, some ramp, and draw. The Chuckle on my end is that our opponent is ranked 63, and after our last win, we are ranked 63. So this is for the battle of whoever is the real 63. Now, this could be aggressive Redoran. I've been playing a lot of that lately myself. Probably going to do a deck spotlight on it in the future. This tells me it probably is, but it also could have been Conscription, and it still could be Conscription Redoran. That likely is a more definitive answer, however.
If I fall,
Yeah, let's go ahead with that.
the East will reclaim me.
I think trading that for a 4/4 is okay. Now, could have charge creatures, right? Could have a raiding party. Or that. That's less okay. So the problem is I really want to ramp here, but if I play just Thorn Hissmage out there, then they'll run over here and hide, which isn't exactly great. So I think that instead we actually just camel here. Wow. That's a lot of tough calls. So my instinct right now says Mentor's Ring, and the reason is not because it's part of the combo. In a game like this against aggro, you probably aren't going to win because you comboed. I mean, it does happen sometimes, but I do, however, feel like it's the correct save, because if you find a Black Hand Messenger, just using this to give a bunch of stuff on the board drain is sometimes a pretty big deal. Tree Minder doesn't help us a ton right now anyway, and Thorana would potentially shuffle back some actions, but yeah, I feel like the Mentor's Ring ends up being the better keep there.
Training is over. It's time to act. Training is over. It's time to act.
So I was gonna ramp this turn, but yep. And you know what? I actually think that I want to do this as well. Ooh. That's a bit of a tough call. I think in this instance we already have a negation. We got a backup strike. I'd like, I think, more guards. The negation is, I think, getting close to not being as valuable. I could be wrong there.
The Hist provides.
So predictable.
Let's do that.
Confound you!
I smell the stench of the living.
Interesting.
watches over me.
Not bad. So this is going to be a pretty expensive reverberating strike, but it ends up being worth it because we get to do this. And I feel like that's fine.
Confound you!
Hey, we're drawing cards.
We'll hold, no matter what.
Alright. It's good for our opponent. Bad for us, but good for our opponent. We don't want them drawing more cards. Oh, my kingdom for an ice storm. Alright. We don't want them to draw future cards, so we actually might just negate that anyway. Because if they play like a Fervor next turn, that ends up being pretty bad. Also, again, Path Mage and our combo are kind of secondary right now. Playing Path Mage right now is a pretty solid play because it can potentially find like Blackhand Messenger. Or Sanctuary Pet. Sorry, I knew there was another 3-drop. I guess Tree Minder is an option as well. At the 4 slot, we've just got Blackwoods and Camels and Vipers. While Viper would be okay, I don't like it as much as the 3-drops, so...
The Night Mother will guide us.
We're gonna just pull that damage off the board entirely, and then silence that. He's gonna trade here to give himself a card and deny me the drain. Alright, now I understand why the spirit went over there. Okay. So... our best course of action is probably... Soul Tear, Black Hand Messenger, and Thorn Hist Mage. With Black Hand Messenger hitting this. Because then other than Divine Fervor or something else that would like do extra damage to this, it might trade even.
The Hist provides.
Free.
And this time, Messenger is going to hide, because if we need to, we can always use Device Experiments on Black Hand Messenger, and I know that sounds ridiculous, but I've won many a games just gaining a shit ton of life. Wow, that's an interesting choice, because if he would have put it here, that would have still survived the trade. Would have left more damage
I know a
pushing.
shortcut. I'll clear a path.
Wow, my kingdom for an ice storm. Ice storm would leave him with just one big creature here. Oh, okay. Now potentially another one.
Forest.
Alright, so we can Viper and Experiment, huh? Yeah, this still pulls the most damage off the board.
Will guide us.
We're gonna do 2 there.
The Night Mother will guide us.
We're gonna do 2 here. And we're just gonna eat this. They're running us out of resources, but we're doing a decent job of staving off the aggression, which is important. As long as they don't play like a Jarl or something like that, we should be relatively okay.
What have we here?
That right there be a Nix-Ox.
For the Black Hand.
So we're just gonna go ahead and do that, mostly because that's gonna let us get potentially a ton more drain.
Training is over. It's time to act. I'll clear a path. I am ready to join the circle.
Alright, so we can kind of force this to go wherever we want at the moment.
For the Black Hand.
So it's gonna end up here, essentially.
My scale.
So let's get 1 damage on it now.
The Night Mother will guide us. Close ranks. Let nothing through.
You can't defeat me.
Interesting that they buffed that.
We must count on our wits.
Alright, so we're gonna go ahead and do that. Realistically, it's got to be either Experiments or Uprising. But I feel like Experiments is definitely the play. Because Experiments on Sun and Shadow means we can find an Uprising in the future if we want.
For the Black Hand.
2, 4. Not quite to where we've got lethal yet. We're close though. Being that this is an aggressive deck, we're not like
Honor and blood.
that worried about him board clearing. It's possible though. Like, I guess in theory, if they have a raiding party or something, they could double charge in, clear some of the stuff off.
They will pay the blood price. Scored.
Alright. So, that... Well, I mean, that's definitely it now.
Nothing will stop my rise.
I have many
Yeah.
important
All right.
things on my mind.
That is game number 2. So we are the master of rank 63. Tied even. Got the win. Non-traditional victory, but like I said, sometimes with this deck, it's not about the combo. It's just about not dying, and against aggressive decks, Black Hand Messenger is your best friend, 100%. Yeah, hopefully this helped. You got to see a little bit of the combo, but a non-traditional way. You got to see it winning just through a traditional control matchup. And again, I just did that beginner's video that does explain the combo if you're new to the deck, so make sure you check that out. Thanks for watching. Until next time, may you walk on warm sands.